Hello, and welcome to this Blueprint webinar. I'm Andy Steed, Content Director of Blueprint London and Big Data London, and I'm joined by Daniel Virasamy from Mirantis today. Hi, Daniel.
Hi, Andy. How are you doing?
Yes, so the title of the talk today is about hyperscaling your data center for guaranteed outcomes. The talk's obviously designed to be interactive, so please ask as many questions as you like on the question bar underneath the video here, and we'll endeavour to ask as many as we possibly can to Daniel at the end of the session. If there's any problem with the feed at any time, there shouldn't be, but just in case, just hit refresh up in your browser and you'll jump straight back in. However, without further ado, really, I'm going to throw it over to the featured presenter for today. So over to you, Daniel.
Thank you, Andy. Let me just share my screen then, and then we are good to start. All right. So I think we can start from there. All right. So again, thank you very much for joining this webinar. Today I'm going to talk about Mirantis Flow and how actually that helps to hyperscale your data centers, but most importantly with guaranteed outcomes. Before that, just a bit about myself. So I'm Daniel Virasamy. I'm a principal cloud solutions architect working for Mirantis. I'm based out of Paris in France. I've spent the last 18 years working mainly in the telco space, building tin boxes and actually also fully software-defined telco clouds. But I've had the opportunity to also work in other opportunities around major open source projects for CI/CD, for analytics, for AIML and IoT. And I must say that I'm continuously thrilled by all these new technological streams that keep coming and giving us opportunities, huge opportunities to build these new and innovative services for our customers. And actually, when I look at these services, right, I can see that there are now new field requirements around shipping code faster, right? So customers need to compete. They are in a very aggressive market and they need to innovate and innovate in the name of their customers, and for that it puts a lot of pressure on IT, right? And I can say that right now the demands on IT are at an all-time high. Why? Simply because for each and every development and deployment that we do, we still have to maintain the highest level of security, right? Critical systems, security for critical systems. We also need to cope with the new requirements around applications, make them more resilient, make them more available, have more performance, right? And these are all key because this is how we also retain our customers. But when you look at the big picture, the whole setup, then you start to look at the TCO of the complete solution. And definitely, you need to deliver all these outcomes, whether it's security, which is a key, very key, and you don't have any trade-off around security. But all the other requirements, you need to provide them at the lowest cost possible, right? We also actually identified some very specific customer challenges that also prevents and holds back organization. I like to put them into two main sections. The first one is around complexity. We now have to manage multiple environments, whether it's on-prem, whether it's at the edge, whether it's colo, whether it's cloud, whether it's private, whether it's public, right? And with all these different environments, they all have specific features, different ways of providing the different capabilities, right? Whether it's database, whether it's compute, whether it's storage. And so basically, the developers and the different operating teams need to adapt to these different environments, right, and maintain them and make sure that you get to the latest and greatest, but also patch them whenever you have a security problem. Scale up, scale down rapidly, right? So it's getting complicated and exponentially complicated. And you always then ask yourself whether you will be delivering on time, right? And what are the trade-offs, right? And do you apply the best practices? Will I reach or will I make it in terms of the deadline of the of the project? So all that, when you add everything and when you look at the complexity around all that, right? The cost is just high. The unit cost at the end is just high because you are duplicating and replicating things to make sure that things are working well. And sometimes you just don't do the best that you can do simply because you can't, right? You don't have the time to do it. The second thing also in terms of challenges that I like to point out is well, people challenges, and this is a reality. It's hard to hire. It's hard to retain also train and retain, and that puts a lot of pressure also on internal projects. Like for example, if you do have some very critical projects where you have a do-it-yourself approach, in that case, well, you have either the problem is at risk because you have people leaving your organization, or you take time, you're slower to deliver these projects, and then it put also your organization at risk because you expose yourself to competition. You have a slower go to market, right? So these are the main challenges that are holding back organizations, and these are also seen well, with the customers we are working with, and actually helping out work on these challenges. Mm. So now when we just add applications on top of that, we whether it's virtualized applications, whether it's containerized applications, right? And then when we start to draw the lines, we just draw the lines between these applications and where they are running, whether it's public, whether it's private, whether it's edge, whether it's hybrid. Then you kind of get that very complex map of all these different applications running on these different environments, and you still need then to maintain in the sense that each and every application has its own properties that you would need to adapt based on the different environments on which they are running. Apply the security policy, again, because security is something which is very critical, and you can't have trade-off on that. You need to adapt these different applications based on how you are going to deliver the customer experience. So it's getting exponentially complex, right? So which means that at some point today, and this is what we are seeing, is that many of the organizations are putting a lot of people and money budget on the low value return tasks, right? Because they need to then keep maintain these environments, to patch them, make sure that you are always up to date, secure them continuously, scale them up, and make sure that you are still able to support the different applications and their life cycle in terms of scale, in terms of performance, in terms of reliability and resiliency, right? And you don't put people and budget then on the tasks that have higher value in terms of return, right? So this is where actually Mirantis helps out, and this is why Mirantis has provided Flow. But just before that, I'm just going to give you a few words about Mirantis. Our mission is very simple. We help our customers to adopt a cloud everywhere model, right? So to deploy applications at scale in various environments, right, through that vertical DevOps approach, and with that, with guaranteed outcomes. And this is very key, right? And I'll detail that in a bit more when I'll talk on Flow. We are publicly recognized. We have over the years received multiple accolades and awards. Like for example, I do like the CRN, so coolest cloud companies. We are part of the 20 coolest cloud companies. We are also recognized by G2. We received from Mobile World Congress the Global Mobile Award, the GLOMO Award, and then we also are received from StackShare the top developer tools with the Lens product. Just a bit about G2. So for if you look at G2 Grid, about the container orchestration, we are seen as a high performer and a leader. And why is that? Simply because we have various tools which are used at scale. Like for example, Lens for DevOps is widely used across the community. We also help multiple customers to host Kubernetes platform for mission critical applications. And we have over 10 million instances of secure container runtime running on production, right? We're also seen as a vendor neutral DevOps company that allows to deploy and manage Kubernetes clusters and services across various platforms. So we, as a leader, then serve over 800 customers, and including 1/3 of the Fortune 100 companies, right? So we feel lucky. We Mirantis feel lucky to serve these customers to help them solve these different challenges that I highlighted earlier, and ensure that they successfully achieve their business goals by focusing on reducing the cloud complexity, but also help them to ship code faster, right? And this is a key phrase for us. We want to help customers to ship code faster because we see it as a differentiating factor and a way to innovate and innovate in the name of their customers, right? So where Mirantis helps as a trusted partner, yeah, again, I'm coming back to that phrase, ship code faster. And why do we want to ship code faster? Simply to achieve these business outcomes, right? So if we apply through technology, speed, agility, simplicity, and security, we then have the ability to help customers to achieve their business outcomes, like for example, outpace competitors, meet demands, and again innovate in the name of your customers, mitigate and eliminate the risk, right? But also act and operate like a service provider, right? And how is this done? Simply by using specialized transformation skills, right? So you have these new skill sets that will allow you to improve the speed by reducing the cycle to innovate, by applying the best practices to innovate and ship code faster, by having the proper agility to scale in and scale out your infrastructure when needed, by securing the different environments and mission critical data, and finally by having that simple, keep it simple approach of having and delegating task to a third party partner like Mirantis to help you to reduce that complexity. Okay. The second important thing also is to empower your team, right? So here you can see that you have that capability to reallocate the effort of and then uh, have your team work on high value tasks, like for example, focus on your business, talk to your customers, understand their needs, spend more time with them, develop more applications and deliver these at a faster rate, right? So improve your overall velocity, protect your business, modernize applications, right? So all of these tasks that actually are time consuming and basically need to have more people and budget to work on these, right? The second part also is to increase also the security, your security posture, right? So have more people working and more budget on the security posture, so that again you have improved secured and environment. And this is very key because this is not only important because of the applications that you are running and how you want to protect these because of legal requirements, but this is also the reputation of your organization, right? So how do you then reallocate that effort to increase the time you spend on these high value tasks and on these security tasks? Well, simply by delegating the other tasks, like platform engineering and platform operations to a third-party partner, trusted partner like Mirantis, right? So this is where we have Mirantis Flow. What is Mirantis Flow in a nutshell? Well, Mirantis Flow is a cloud-native data center, which is orchestrated by a product which we call Mirantis Container Cloud, right? So what do you have within that offering? You have on the first layer, you have a self-service virtualization capability, right? So you have the ability to deploy virtual machines. You have the ability to deploy multi-tenant networks. You have the ability to access block storage, object storage, and then other supporting services like load balancing, DNS as a service, Vault to protect your secrets, etc., etc. Right. So you have a complete, full-fledged virtualization layer. You also have a complete Kubernetes as a service offering, right? So you have the capability to deploy Kubernetes and manage containers at scale across various environments, whether it's on-prem or in the public cloud. And to support these two layers, whether it's virtualization and Kubernetes and containers, you also have lifecycle management system, which helps you to scale in, scale out your cluster, but also automate the updates and upgrades of your cluster, right? So everything is then made simple, simply because you don't need to take care of the updates and upgrades. This is done by the lifecycle management system, which is part of the solution. You also have an observability stack, which allows you to monitor, log, and alert, and get the alerts or manage the alerts of your different environments, right? Through one single management window pane. So basically, here all the metrics, all the logs are being handled properly, so that you can then get access to these different parameters and make sure that your cloud is working properly, right? And actually, we Mirantis will be managing all that through our system, so that you just consume the cloud without having to take care of all of this. Okay. We also have, as part of this offering, the design, deployment, and onboarding, right? So what do I mean by design, deployment, and onboarding? Is all these day one tasks of how do I properly design the cloud for virtualization? How do I properly design the cloud for container and Kubernetes as a service at scale, right? And again, on multiple environments, are taken care of by the Mirantis Upscale offering, actually, right? And then, as part of that offering, we also deploy the full environment, right? In a couple of days. And then we start by onboarding some applications to kickstart the environment. Okay, and finally, we have a 24/7, 365-day proactive support, right? Which actually where we guarantee availability, and we provide availability SLAs, which is at 99.99%, to make sure that the cloud is always available for your workloads. Right. So what do we guarantee then through that offering? And this is again important, because earlier I said, yeah, we've guaranteed outcomes, right? So the first one is rapid deployment. As from the moment that we have the hardware properly deployed, network properly taken care and configured, right? We then guarantee that within the next 48 hours, you have that full complete solution, right? So this is the first guarantee. The second guarantee is around having reduced overhead. Basically, through the Upscale offering, we help you again to do the design of the cloud, deployment of the cloud, and then we manage that cloud. So we proactively look at the metrics and logs and make sure that the cloud is always properly configured, properly scaled, right? And we anticipate the fact that we are reaching an upper limit, and then we start rolling out more nodes, so that you always have available resources to continuously onboard your applications, right? And we work with you very closely as a co-pilot, actually. We also guarantee that we will be working with you to help you onboard your first application. So here it is a kickstart type of service where we will help you to onboard the first VMs and containers on top of this platform with the best practice and the proper tooling, right? So that you get and you can start using that cloud as from its actual availability. And finally, this is a complete solution where you have both the resources for virtual machines, block storage, object storage, multi-tenant networking, and then other supporting services like load balancing and DNS and secure and secret management, but also containers and containers that can be deployed at scale again on multiple environments, right? So with these guaranteed outcomes, we kind of then align with business outcomes, right? And this is again very, very important because at the end of the day, what we want to do is we want to then allow you to reach your business outcomes. So if we look at the at free target business initiatives, like for example, I want to grow my top line revenue. Well, basically with this approach of being able to go to market more rapidly, right? Simply by having more people focusing on high value tasks. Having that capability to ship code faster, you have access to the market in a faster pace, right? So, for example, we have with customers, we have been able to work with them so that they are able to accelerate by threefold the time that for them they took to ship code on production, right, and have an impact with their customers. And we also saw that with some customers, they were able to increase their revenue by $100 million over 2 years. Okay. Another target business initiative is also on the reducing the cost, right? A bottom line cost reduction. And for that, we also observed that we were able to reduce cost for some of our customers by at least 50%, and work on the TCO model with them and help them to save up to $3 million over a year, right? And how we do that? We do that simply by working with them on some of their proprietary solutions that they are using, right, and helping them to move to open source components, whether it's on the infrastructure part, but also on the application part, right? And by having a trusted partner like Mirantis to help them on these open source initiatives, they have been able to have, well, they have actually two advantages. One is definitely cost reduction, and the second one is also less vendor lock-in. A third target business initiative on which we also align with our guaranteed business outcomes is risk to the business, right? As we proactively manage the infrastructure, proactively make sure that based on the metrics and thresholds that we set and the alarms that we also set on the cloud, on your cloud, we are able to proactively go and make the proper action to mitigate the risk, right? And we have observed with customers that they have an increased service uptime by 4 times, right, actually. And we also, again, guarantee the service uptime with our SLA with a 99.99% SLA commitment. Okay. So when to use Flow? One of the use cases where you will be able to use Flow is for example, to replace proprietary solutions like VMware, for example. One of the things that you can see as from the past and from now, right? So every time that you had that evolution of systems or revolution of systems, you have many customers have put their workloads on these proprietary solutions, right? And for a couple of years, many customers have asked to move out of these proprietary APIs, even on some of the clouds, right? And try to find a solution of having an abstraction layer that prevents them to use these proprietary APIs to be able to have more flexibility and more options if something does not work as they would like or want, right? So with that, we as Mirantis have been actively working with these customers and organizations to help them work more with open source, right? And this is also linked to the fourth point that I have on this slide is open source strategy first. And actually, how does that help then? Is one again that without these proprietary solutions and licenses, right, you have that option of or have that capability to just reuse code because you are now a part of a shared environment. There are still challenges around open source, and this is why you need to have trusted partners to work with you on these open source strategies. But definitely that helps you to reduce the cost, but it also helps you to reduce the vendor locking, right? Simply by as you will have the ability to use any or various large open source projects like for databases, like for big data, like for AIML, right? And you want to leverage the effort from the community to one help you to develop specific features within these open source projects, but also to help you to benefit from the support of various organizations on these different open source projects, right? So this is where Flow helps a lot because one, on the infrastructure level, you are now leveraging open source components like for virtualization, for containerization with Kubernetes, and for the different lifecycle management system stack and observability stack, right? You are leveraging these open source components, and it aligns also with your open source first strategy. The second part where you would be able to use Flow also is when you want to have or you want to handle various environments, whether it's on-prem, private cloud, or public cloud strategy, right? So Flow is not locking you down into one single solution, but it gives you choice. It gives you choice to select the proper environment on which you want to host your different services, and then it allows you to then deploy your services across these different environments, whether it's on-prem or it is on public cloud. Okay. So quick note on then going a step further with Flow, and this is also an interesting feature that we have, in the sense that uh, for some of our customers, they want to go rapidly on a and provide a global presence, right? So because they have various plants or they have various customers across the globe, and they need to have that data locality and low latency features. So for that, we have the ability with Mirantis Flow to deploy in a repeatable way these different services, whether it's with virtualization, whether it's with containerization as a whole, right? That complete solution. And we have that ability to deploy these across the globe. And we do that with one of our partners, which is Equinix Metal, right? So if you look at the Equinix Metal map, they have multiple metros across the globe. So basically, they have around 18 sites today across the globe, and we have that ability with them to through a fully automated mechanism to deploy in a very short time the full offering across these different metros, right? So within a couple of days / weeks, depending on how many sites you want to deploy, you have that ability then to get a global cloud to cover various regions and access your customers in a better way. Okay. The second thing that I also want to highlight that is that on top of Flow, You can also use lens and lens spaces, and this is also very important to accelerate the deployment of container applications on top of various environments, right? So this is what we also refer to the vertical DevOps approach, where you have and you are managing multiple. Well, we help you manage multiple environments, whether it's on-prem, whether it's public, whether it's at the edge. And basically you will have that container capability and Kubernetes capability actually across these different environments, right? So it can be seen as the abstraction layer, or well, let's extend a little bit that word, but as a cloud operating system, right? Just to avoid using the proprietary APIs and avoid locking down into proprietary solutions. And through that abstraction layer, right, you want to have a way of in a repeatable manner, in a controlled manner, deploy and manage applications, right? And this is where lens and lens spaces come in, and lens spaces um, are part of the flow offering actually, right? Help you to deploy container applications in Kubernetes clusters at scale, observe these different applications and make sure that they're working well, right? Test them on different environments, whether it's a staging or development environment, and then promote that application on top of a production environment, troubleshoot when needed, and share your different environments, Kubernetes environments, whether they are running on-prem or in public cloud, across your team to better collaborate, right? So this is how we even accelerate the ship code faster with the lens and lens spaces offering, right? So thank you very much for your time. If you want to learn more about Mirantis Flow, please visit our website, and I will be able to share this link with you in a separate mail. But yes, and also if you want to learn more about our other offerings, we also have all these described on our Mirantis.com website, right? And from this, I'm just going to look at the questions from Andy, and yes, and I'll be happy to answer these.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you very much, Daniel, for the presentation. It was good to learn a bit more about Mirantis Flow. It's very new, isn't it? It's 2021 that it's come out. Is that right?
Yes, you're right, Andy. We released that end of summer 2021, so it's fairly new. But we already, yes, are working with a couple of customers on this approach, because they like that approach of having that, yes, full stack offering with a fully managed offering, and have that kind of service provider or cloud service provider experience, but without using proprietary APIs.
Yes, yeah. Because the interesting the interesting part of the title, obviously we're mentioning the data center, but it's not a data center as many people might imagine it. If you know, it's almost a kind of a different concept, a different thing. Do you find people find it difficult to understand that at all, or you know, once you've explained it, are people are people there with you?
Yeah, that's a good point, Andy. And the thing is, right now with customers, we are seeing that they are looking at having a kind of distributed data center, right? A distributed data center approach, where they don't really have one site or a couple of sites that they are maintaining themselves, but they kind of distribute the workloads across various providers, various sites, because they have different strategies, and each of the applications have different strategies, right? So basically, when we talk about these hyperscale data centers, then we kind of see it as a uh, uh, stretched or distributed data center, whether it's on-prem, edge, cloud, collocation, for example, collocated data centers, right? And we have that kind of abstraction layer across all these, And this is where containerization and Kubernetes comes in, actually, which allows to then have that common framework, common language across all these environments, and allow our customers to scale and apply or deploy their applications across these different environments, right? So for them, they see a pool of resources across different vendors and providers and sites, but only one single way of consuming these resources without asking themselves which API to ask, which security policy to apply, which block storage or which object storage to use, etc., right? So they have that common framework, which is provided by Kubernetes, that is seen as that hyperscale data center.
Perfect. And in terms of using Kubernetes, it's a thing that comes through in a lot of our work in Blueprint with the event and with the virtual stuff we've done. Mm-hmm. What's the benefits of working with you with Kubernetes rather than attempting to obviously it's very difficult. This is some of the feedback that we get from users all the time is mm-hmm. They're struggling to get the staff or struggling to get to grips with the potential of it. What's the benefits of working with you or someone like you to sort of manage this Kubernetes instances, etc.?
Yeah, again, that's an interesting point, because I would say, first of all, Kubernetes is an open source project, right? So you need to have that open source I would say philosophy as part of the core of your company, right? And for Mirantis, from the start of the company, we have always been very, very close to open source communities, whether it was at the with the OpenStack community, and now with the Kubernetes community, we are very, very close to the open source community. We have our Kubernetes cluster as part of the CNCF landscape. We are supporting Lens as an open source project. We are supporting K0s as a supporting open source project, right? So we are very close to that, and we collaborate with the community to enrich the different features, and this is very, very key. But on the other side, right, we know how to use open source, and we know how to use open source at scale. We have accompanied customers to deploy open source software for infrastructure and for applications at scale, right? Whether it was for the virtualization layer with OpenStack, but also with the Kubernetes and containerization layer. And as I shared in the presentation, we have today more than 10 million container runtime running on production, right? And that means that when I say we know how to support customers on production, it's not only about the technology. We also know how to support these customers when they have issues, right? We have the proper SLAs to help them reach their goals, right? Their business goals. So how to scale the environment, how to properly deploy it, how to properly design it, how to make sure that the applications are running properly or secured, right? And whenever they have a problem, we have the reactivity and people and skills that are then available to help them properly troubleshoot and fix any issues, right? And then move to the next level, right? So these are the key and key differentiators for Mirantis: the know-how of open source, that will to work with open source products, our legitimacy on the market, because we have multiple thousands, hundreds of thousands clusters running on production, but also we have that support capability, 24/7 support capability to help customers to scale.
Perfect. My next question is going to be about sort of returns or savings, or however you want to put it. This was old school ROI, I suppose. It's obviously a relatively young product, so there might not be an answer you can give over a certain amount of time that you've managed to do this for people, but presumably, I mean, this is going to save companies money, right? Lots of money. Have you any idea of that kind of return? That's the potential of return that you could get?
Yeah, this is a good point also, because even though this is a new and very new offering, this is based on many of our existing products, right? And existing products with which we are already helping customers to manage. And actually, with these products, we already observed in terms of TCO uh, huge improvements. And the improvements are on two levels. The first one is getting out of proprietary solutions where they are paying a lot on licenses, right? So moving from a license model to an open source model helps them hugely, simply because then they are mechanically reducing cost, right? The second part is through the support engagement and the way that we proactively manage the environment. We have the ability with customers to optimize the way that they are using the resources. So we continuously observe the environment, and through the metrics, we can say that, yeah, the nodes are not properly populated. They still have capacity to deploy more applications on that, right? So we help customers to optimize the way that they are using the cloud resources. And by doing these two, we then basically help customers to reduce costs, because instead of them having to deploy thousands of nodes, they can reduce that a bit. If they want to deploy container resources on cloud resources, but which are oversized, we can also help them to just size properly the resources, right? So when we just add these two, we have some customers, yeah, which are able to get over 10 million per year of TCO improvement.
Hmm. Which is, yeah, not a small improvement, regardless of how big you are, right? So yeah, yeah,
Exactly. And when unfortunately we look at the pandemic situation right now, many of the organizations are trying to, yes, reduce cost as much as possible, right? And this is, yeah, definitely not something to yeah, which we can
yeah.
neglect.
Yeah, I might come back to the pandemic in a minute, actually. However, I was going to ask you a question about getting started, because I'm guessing lots of people who watch this are either, interested in technology, interested in the concept, and first step is always the hardest, right? How long does it take to deploy typically, and what sort of, do you need any special skills? You mentioned DevOps. Do they need a DevOps department? Do they need someone with specific skills, or what is favorable? What's the best way to kind of start this journey, I guess?
Well, actually, no, you don't. Organizations don't need to have any specific skills in that space, for the simple reason that we would do everything. So we have basically we have two use cases. The first one is the organization, well, does not have any or is using its own infrastructure, right? So the only thing that we would be requesting in that case is have the servers installed, right? At least racked, physically racked, have the networking done, right? And we getting access to these resources, these physical resources. And as from there, within 48 hours, we will be deploying everything, right? So when I say everything is we will start the servers, we will install the operating system, configure the operating system, deploy the different virtualization and containerization solutions, the lifecycle management system, the logging, monitoring, and alerting stack, and do the handover to the customer, right? So that's our promise. The second use case is if the customer does not have or doesn't want to have any hardware, right, that he's maintaining. Like, for example, if he wants to use a colo, for example, like when I was referring to Equinix Metal, in that case, it's even simpler, because Equinix Metal, for example, it's all API driven. So I just connect to the Equinix Metal project, and through the API, I provision the different servers, the different physical servers. in a very specific in a specific manner or pattern, and then I just deploy. We Mirantis, we will just deploy the services in this, right? And in that case, it's even quicker because it's everything is API driven, and we have already automated this task. So basically, in a couple of hours, we would have the cluster deployed, right? And the interesting point about also Equinix Metal is that that approach is then pushed across the globe, right? So you can very rapidly again have that global presence of having these multi-region deployed, multi-cloud region deployed across the globe.
Perfect. No, and 48 hours, obviously, kick yourself off pretty quickly, especially with the sort of push, like you say, with the pandemic to go cloud native and to innovate and etc. I suppose another return is that it allows people who are managing infrastructure or probably shouldn't be managing infrastructure but are to actually do some stuff and push the product along or serve people better.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, lastly, I'll get if you don't mind just touching again on what you said at the end of the presentation in terms of where people can get a bit more information. I'm guessing there's certain levels of there's training out there, resources and things like that for people to find out a little bit more, because obviously it's obviously a complicated subject matter and etc. I mean, if there's anything Mirantis have done or are doing that you could flag up to help people for a bit of extra resource, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. So for that, we have multiple resources, right? And we'll be able to share that with this presentation. But actually, yes, we have a blog where we are explaining how we are actually working and helping to address various use cases. We also have on our website the various offerings that I talked today. Mirantis Flow, definitely, Equinix, and how we are partnering with Equinix and how these can be linked. The DevOps care approach of how we are also helping customers to rapidly onboard and ship code even faster, right, on these different environments in a very standardized way and controlled way. So everything is explained and described on our website. We also, as you referred, we also provide training in various domains, and all these offerings are also available on our website. So yes, and then obviously we are also present on different social media, where we also share and publish white papers. We recently, for example, just released from Mirantis Press a new book which talks about how Python can be used for these new cloud native applications. And we in the past also talk and shared a little bit about service mesh, right? So we also have Mirantis Press that releases books from from time to time, right? That can also be available. And yes, we do share on social media the different white papers, use cases on which we work, and how we can also work with and help customers. And finally, we are also present in the different open source communities, where we also share code and share expertise. So yes, these are the different ways that we interact with customers and the community.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, and thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure having you. A good chat afterwards, actually, as well. I think that made things very clear as well. We're not going to be back now before the new year. So for everyone at home, have an absolutely fantastic Christmas and a well-deserved break. Hope you get some time to relax and time with your family and that kind of thing over the New Year break. But from us here, it's goodbye for now. And so I'd like to thank Daniel again and bid everybody farewell. So thanks, Daniel, and we'll see you in 2022. All right.
Thank you, Nick, for having me. Cheers.
No worries
Bye.
at all. No worries. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye bye.